We are in Meroe, on the east bank of the Nile, 215 kilometers from the confluence of the Blue and the White Nile, located in the present-day Sudan, the capital of ancient kingdom of Kush, which existed from around 10th century BC until maybe the 4th century AD. Since year 2000, we've been working jointly with our Sudanese colleagues from the University of Khartoum and Sudan National Museum. Excavations started in 1909 when John Garstang, archaeologist from the University of Liverpool, began his excavations. Some of the objects were donated to the Royal Ontario Museum, where they form the core of our Nubian collection. We employ local people for excavations, for digging. They come mainly from two groups. The Jailin tribe, people settled on the bank of the Nile, engaged in agriculture. Another group are the nomadic people such as the Kababish and other tribes who live out in the desert, but sometimes during our excavation season they come here. Among them I am sure many have the genes, the blood of ancient Meroites, since they have been living here for generations. The first to mention it by name was Greek traveler and historian Herodotus, who in his book mentioned Meroe, the wonderful rich capital of the kingdom of Ethiopia, as he called it. There were only two capitals of the kingdom of Kush. The early one was established at the site of the temple of Jebel Barkal. That's its modern name. But its ancient name was Napata. It was established perhaps in 8th, 9th century BC as a Kushite town, but the temple was actually built by Egyptian pharaohs when they conquered Nubia. In 591 BC, there was another Egyptian invasion of Nubia, and those Egyptians destroyed the same temple. Perhaps because of that, and the fear of a future invasion, around 300 BC, the kings of Napata decided to move their capital city and the burial ground from Napata to Meroe. The northern group of pyramids is the group containing the largest number, maybe 53 pyramids altogether, although not all of them survive to present day. Some were completely ruined in antiquity, but many, unfortunately, were destroyed by the 19th century robber archaeologists. Travelers like Giuseppe Ferlini, an Italian from Bologna, who explored many of the pyramids searching for gold. And believe it or not, he actually found gold treasures in the pyramid of Queen Amani-Shaheto from the 1st century AD. When dismantling the pyramid, he found in the core of the pyramid, and not in the burial chamber, a vessel containing many beautiful jewels. The treasure was really astonishing, so much so that when Ferlini returned to Europe, he had difficulties selling it. People did not believe that such wonderful things could have been made deep inside African continent. In front of the pyramids, the kings or queens would erect chapels with scenes depicting the funeral and representations of a ruler on his way to the afterlife. They really relied on Egyptian model. Not only the scenes were those from the contemporary Egypt of Ptolemaic rulers, but the texts were also written in Egyptian. The shape of the pyramid is also interesting because they are once again different from the Egyptian pyramids. First of all, they are smaller, but they are also much steeper. And the point at the top did not end in a pyramidion, but rather there was a strange round structure, perhaps to reflect a sun disk, or the association between the dead ruler and the sky and the travel in the company of the sun god Ra. Coinciding with the change of the seat of the kings, we also have the introduction of Meroitic language, we have the change in artistic style, in architecture, we even have the introduction of the new cult, the god Epidemic, the lion god of Meroe. In antiquity, the place must have been roaming with wild game. Lions, antelopes, giraffes and elephants are frequently represented in Meroitic art. It cannot be a big surprise that the Meroites were worshipping a lion, the king of the animal world. Right behind me you've got the pylon, that is the main official gate entry to the temple, decorated with a traditional scene of king smiting the heads of his enemies. Except that in contrast to Egypt, here we've got a king and a queen, showing that the role of queens in Meroitic society was much more elevated than the queens in Egypt. On the south wall, we can see 5 divine figures welcoming 3 royal personalities: the king, King Natakamani, followed by Queen Amanitore, and behind them the young prince. They are welcomed by god Epidemic. Here you have a chance to see magnificent temple of a Meroitic god Epidemic as it was in its natural setting.
يا ست البنات يا خضرو الباقي ولقيت بالعراقي.
The kingdom, which extended from the first cataract of the Nile near Aswan in Egypt all the way up the river to the Sudanese-Ethiopian border, had many accomplishments. We can admire today the remains of their cities, temples, pyramids and palaces. The Meroites produced beautiful art, beautiful jewelry, objects of daily life, many of them now in museums, including the Royal Ontario Museum. Archaeology of ancient Sudan, although developing, is still at its early stages. There are whole cities to be discovered, temples to be excavated.